2017 ethics lecture. Need to have a little disclosure statement there in the beginning. I don't have a degree in philosophy. I don't have a degree in jurisprudence. When I tell people, I think this is from last year, where I said I went to Google University, that simply means I went out and I spent a lot of time reading about this on the internet. And it's surprising the number of things that you can come up with. It's a lot more fun this year. I was under a lot of constraints because I was an employee last year when I gave this, and they were very concerned about being accused of me giving legal advice, even though I had that statement there. But now I've retired, so I'm just giving this as an explorationist and president of the Houston Geologic Society. I'm pleased to be able to do this so that everybody can get their certification. Why ethics training? Well, employment requirement. Professional license / for societies, that's me. I think that's a lot of people in here. Personal development. Well, there's 5 people up there that don't feel that way. But here you go. I love this. This cartoon is fantastic. You know, the pointy-haired guy. I love that guy. I've worked for that guy. This is great. Yes, lucky I haven't taken that training myself. Here's my only common sense. Well, I have a little line to that. My father's favorite line is, common sense just isn't that common. Boy, isn't that the truth. Ethics, it's everywhere. Here you go. APG Explorer, 2017, February, David Curtis, my good buddy. Like David a lot. He's a smart man. How we conduct our business, how we conduct ourselves, it matters. No kidding. It really does matter. This business is ripe with places where ethics can go astray. Now trending in ethics here. Oh yeah, here we go. Kelly Conway. Yeah, right. Here's another one. Suicide of a powerful lobbyist, rocks K Street. Guy, he was embezzling money. When he finally got caught, he shot himself. Probably wasn't a good idea. I don't think his family liked that. There you go. Just the other day, forced to resign. Ethics issues. There you go. Here's another one. Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau. Yeah, he and his cabinet are in all kinds of ethics issues because they were alleged to taking cash for access to the Prime Minister. See that overseas a lot. Here's another one. This one blew my mind here. BLM official violated federal ethics for asking for tickets to the Burning Man. I mean, come on. That's like going to a Deadhead concert, you know. Come on, give me a break. What's that? Here we go. We got another one. Top law enforcement. This is the DA, Seth Williams, Philadelphia, ethics allegations, and he was fined by the Philadelphia Board for the city there, $62,000 for breaking ethics. Here's another one. This guy here, CEO, Port of Seattle, forced to resign for issuing himself just a little under $25,000. And again, the thing with the sports and entertainment tickets. You know, I don't know. Anybody gone to a big event lately? You know, last time, you know, my favorite thing is live music. Last time I went to see Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, I think it cost me about $900 a ticket. So yeah, that gets you right up there into the level that people start to get concerned about. Definition. A lot of definitions for ethics. System for moral principles. Rule of conduct, organized and respected class, and whatever. Moral principles. This is the one we're looking at. Branch of philosophy dealing with values of human contact, relating to human conduct, respect of rightness, wrongness, certain actions, goodness, badness, motives, end of such action. Okay, that's what we're going to be talking about. Here you go. lot of confusion sometimes on ethics versus morals. I'm sorry about you poor guys that have to eat and keep turning around. I didn't think about that. I should have asked for all to be set up a little bit different in here. But ethics and morals are somewhat related, but not exactly related. The real difference is that ethics is conduct that it's a social thing versus morals being a personal internal thing. That's really the big difference here. Don't think there's a lot more to say here. I'm going to wait a second, let everybody have a chance to read all that. If I'm going too fast, tell me. Goal is for me to make this go for an hour. Hopefully I have enough slides at the end. Okay, ethics. Okay, Scott's story. I love this story. Scott is a personal friend of mine. He's a engineering professor at a university in Illinois. Scott and I grew up together. He was my best buddy through undergraduate school, and I had him come down for the rodeo a couple years ago, and we were chit-chatting away, and I was telling him about my having to go back to school again over at Rice and some of the classes I was taking, and he laughed, and he told me this story, and it had to do with a class I took and that he teaches now at this university. It's called Engineering Mathematics. It's partial differential equations, Fourier analysis and series, and you're doing it longhand on a piece of paper. And we were talking about it, and I brought up that I had a particularly irritating experience with the professor almost accusing me of cheating in this thing. He couldn't really come out and do that because of all of the criteria that goes into things at Rice. And on top of that, I had signed the back of my exam like you have to. I never used the full paragraph thing that were supposed to write. I just generally wrote, "I did not cheat," signed my name underneath it, and that. And holy cow, I was 30 years old. I don't need to cheat. I actually do the work. But Scott was telling me that he had rampant cheating in this class. I said, "What?" He goes, "Yes." I said, "Don't they understand that if you cheat when you get out, you're not going to be able to do it? People are going to know, and it doesn't look good for the university." He goes, "Oh, that's not why they're cheating." I said, "What do you mean that's not why they're cheating?" He goes, "No, they are cheating to get an A. They have a B, and they're cheating like crazy to get an A." And I looked at him, I said, "Scott, you don't have a cheating problem. You have an ethics problem, and you need to talk to the department and tell them you need an ethics training for these students. Because if it's starting here at the undergraduate level at a university with that kind of thing, then it leads itself to big problems down the road." Those of you that know me very closely, yes, Jackie, that's you. Know that my greatest hero is my father. He was a very smart man. He was a aerospace engineer, worked for the Air Force. I grew up in Dayton, Ohio, and he worked at the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And back in 1981, I had my beautiful geophysical bride that I had just married out of college, and we were packing up our car. It was a Volkswagen diesel Dasher to drive from Ohio, Dayton, Ohio, out to the San Francisco Bay Area to start working for our first employer, Chevron. And my father felt it was important at that time to take me aside and give me a little fatherly advice. He was kind of like that. And this is what he told me. He goes, "Yeah, in the course of your career, John, you're starting a professional career. You're not doing the crazy things that you used to do while you were in college that didn't really make any difference." He says, "You're going to see people engage in all kinds of activity that you know are wrong, absolutely wrong, and or illegal." He's right about that. I have seen that. He says, "They will rationalize their actions in a multitude of ways. Well, I'm doing this for the company. I'm doing this, that, whatever, He says, He says, and when the end comes and the curtain falls, and then he looked at me, he says, and it always falls. Don't think it doesn't. They'll be standing out in the open with no one by their side. That's right. The company's not going to stand behind you. Your friends aren't going to stand behind you. Nobody's going to be helping you when these problems all come to roost. He said, the number one thing you need to recognize in any of these professions is you think you have a big degree and all these diplomas and this and that. He says, you don't have any of that. You only got one thing. It's your reputation. It takes years to build that reputation. Years. And takes minutes, just minutes, to destroy it. I added a little bit to this. I hear orange is the new black. I guess that's because we live here in Texas. That's what they have to wear. Where I grew up, they wore these big horizontal stripes. And his line was always, you want to keep your pinstripes vertical, never horizontal. So, there you go. He was a smart guy. Oh, just asked Jeff Skilling, former CEO of Enron, about how he feels about what's going on with him. Another slide. I love this slide. This is probably my most favorite in the entire slide deck, because that's my wife talking to me. Yep. Yes, Dawn. It is ethics. Wrong way. What is business ethics? Many people think it was written by Niccolo Machiavelli. I can tell from the chuckles, many of you know who I'm talking about. Any of you guys know don't know who I'm talking about? He wrote a book a long time ago. I found it entertaining and educational to read it, because you do run into people that I think have read it and follow it. It's shocking. It's called The Prince. And in here he wrote this for one of the Medicis. If you don't know who they are, they were the people around Florence. And very, very powerful Italian family. And he claimed he never read it, because if he claimed he read it, people would hate him. But at the end of the day, the conclusion of the book is that a prince wishing to hold his own and control power needs to know how to do wrong. I kind of dumbed that down to any means to an end. That's really what it comes down to. I don't agree with that. I think that's a really bad idea, and this is not what business ethics is all about. Okay, I have a couple examples I think I'll just go over here real quick here in the beginning. Talked about one of them already. Enron. Take a look at this. This one is an extremely sore spot to me. Enron claimed to have revenues of $111 billion at 2000. They were the most innovative company. And in 2001, the whole thing collapsed when they found out that they had accounting fraud and everything else. Most of the people that are older in this room know what I'm talking about. And now I'm going to tell you why I have a specific rub with this. I worked at ARCO, as we've talked before, and in the late 80s and the early 90s, we used to have to go to town hall meetings where we were just absolutely taken to the woodshed and told that we were worthless, terrible explorers and oil men, and this was by the McKinsey Group. I'm not going to hold back on anything at this point. This was by the McKinsey Group who told us this, and they would show us this graph. It was a scatter plot, and there was this whole group in this shotgun pattern, and then there was this one group way up in the top corner to the right where everybody wants to be. And at that time, it was very similar to now in the oil patch. But the voguing thing to do was to get an MBA, and about half of the people in the office had gotten MBAs. So they were very familiar with financial statements and the whole darn thing. And they looked at those things, at the chart, and they said, I don't care who that is up there in that corner, there is no way that you can be up there. We do this business every day, and we're very familiar with financials. There's no way, and yes, your competitors are doing this. Well, no, they were lying, because it was Enron that was the company that was up in that upper right corner. So yes, and they just used to, it was really quite ugly during those times that they were doing all that. Sorry about my microphone moving. Okay, I'm fine, I've been told. So yes, I have a real rub about that, but this is how these things happen. You have engineer students cheating on exams to try and get an A in the class so that they can get with honors on their diploma, so that they can get on the fast track to the corporate executive suite at the company, and then they're lying on the financial records. They're cooking the books. So you ended up with Sarbanes-Oxley, which I think we'll see some changes to coming up here in the future, is what it sounds like. But it remains to be seen. Oh, here's another one. This is one of my favorites here. Dad Joyner, that's a man with this red circle around him. He's there shaking that guy's hand. His business model: pick an area with limited oil potential. Sell more than 100% working interest on your well there. I think he sold about 150% working interest on that well in Kilgore. Dry hole, nobody knows the difference. Whoa, and you find the second largest oil field in the lower 48 prior to the shale play. Yes, he discovered the East Texas field. How did the Bass family get involved in the East Texas field? Well, they actually had a working interest in that, and they immediately recognized what was going on, and that he was an unscrupulous promoter, and they went around and bought up all the working interests that they could get, and did eventually get the vast majority of that. But they ended up having to buy 150% working interest on that thing because he'd sold so much over. Don't do that. When let's see, where is it? Yeah, here we go. Oop, wrong way. I guess I took that off. In Wikipedia, they said he had financial difficulties. Right. Okay, we're going to go into talking about ethical frameworks for decision making. Why do we even care about this? They allow us to explore the full range of ethical themes and associated ethical decisions. It's a model that we're going to talk about. They help us understand assumptions associated with different ethical themes, and therefore our own assumptions. Only after these assumptions are been reflected and scrutinized can they be reinforced or revised. Here we go. I want to have us take a little break here. This is a geology picture. This is from La Popa, Mexico, the La Popa Basin. I don't know how many people in the room got to go down there before it got a little dangerous and see the salt weld with those guys. That was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it a great deal. But this is a picture from up there taken by my good friend Monica Miley. Monica is an avid world traveler, looking at geologic outcrops and interesting geologic formations around the world. She loves field trips. She's kindly given me these pictures to show. 3 ways to think about ethics: descriptive ethics, meta-ethics, and normative ethics. We're going to spend our time on this last one. The question that we're trying to answer: that general or specific convictions about right and wrong, good and bad, virtue and vice, do we hold or reject? That's the one we want to talk about. Here's an example. For Americans, bribery is wrong. For others, not so. How do we see that statement there? Descriptively, they're saying there's differences in morals, belief across societies. Okay, that's a descriptive way of looking at it. The meta-ethics way of looking at it is speaker is saying something about a lack of objectivity or cross-cultural ethical standards. Last, in the normative, the speaker is expressing a conviction about the moral unacceptability of bribery, at least for Americans. So there you go. Getting concerned I might be going too fast here. 3 levels of applications of ethics and therefore morality. You have systemic, which is a system. Capitalism is a system, has virtues and vices on the organizations that comprise it. Organizational, that's your company. Capitalism may or may not confer virtues or vices on individuals that work for those organizations. And then there's personal, and this can go both directions on it, but we're mainly going to focus on personal right there. Persons that work for organizations or in a system may or may not confer virtues or vice on the organizations and the system that they work in. Connecting ethics to decision making. This is what it's all about. Have one style, gut feeling or inspiration. Second style is testing of right and wrong. Should come from some sort of community consensus. And the third style is developing a set of principles and or frameworks to use as a guide for ethical decision making. I need to step back for 1 second here and say to you guys, this has got a real business flair to it because I heisted a lot of this from Harvard Business School. I think I may have said that in the front of the slideshow, but I didn't point that out. So in case you think that it came from their MBA program, big chunks of things. But I've added different stuff to it after that. So we're going to be looking at this third style here, developing a set of principles and frameworks to use for making ethical decisions. Need another little break here. This is another favorite picture of mine from Monica. This is the Dolomites in, I think it's in northern Italy. So yes, it's a nice picture there. We need that every once in a while because this is pretty dull. 5 of you guys were honest.
What was that third style?
Third style, go back here. Develop a set of principles and frameworks to use as a guide for making ethical decisions. Oh, okay, I get the point. Okay, teleological frameworks consist of 2 paradigm framework that proposes a single formula can capture the moral point of view. Telos means aim, end. You have ethical egotism. A person ought to act only to promote for himself or herself the greatest balance of good over bad results. Seen that before. Then you have the flip side of that, so it's essentially the opposite. Utilitarianism, which is a person ought to act to only promote the maximum net expected utility for the widest community affected by their actions. Greatest good for the greatest number. Okay, here we go. You are the CEO of a publicly traded company. You create a small carried interest override pool on your company's drilling inventory for yourself and all of your employees. Do you think that would be ethical egotism or ethical utilitarianism? That vote, just text either A or B, and we'll see how people go. Oh, we're doing real well so far. People are trying, okay. Yeah. You notice I didn't put count on here anymore, so you know, it can be 5 of you that send it in, but I'm hoping it's the whole group, just to keep it a little more entertaining. Okay. Got a couple more coming in. I found this really entertaining that you guys can just send a text and it automatically, I'm connected to the internet, it just automatically feeds right into the picture here. So it looks like ethical utilitarianism is winning out at this point. We did have a small group that thought it was ethical egotism, but it's doing the greatest good for all because you're doing it for yourself and all of your employees. So it's everybody at the company that is getting some sort of a small carried interest on the override pool. Seems like a kind of a nice idea. I like that idea, actually. Gets you to make sure your prospects work pretty well, since you have something in it. Okay, here's the next one. You're the CEO of a publicly traded company. You allow yourself to purchase a small working interest in wells that you cherry pick from the company's drilling inventory. Whoa. Everybody's going for that. Yeah, you might laugh at this, but there's actually someone who was doing this. It was in the newspaper. He's no longer with us anymore. It was named Aubrey McClendon was doing this. I got real issues with this. Real issues. It's a publicly traded company. It's unethical to the employees. It's unethical to the shareholders. Yeah, you know which wells you think, which development wells and whatever you think are going to work the best, and so you're picking the best ones of the best, and you're getting a small working interest out of that. That's just like cronyism at its finest, right there. Yes, sir.
There are many executive perks in every industry, not just the oil industry. Why, theoretically, why couldn't that be considered just another executive perk, particularly if it's at the same level as, say, executive jet travel or premium accommodations that most of industry and our society pretty much tend to accept, whether we like it or not.
Most people don't like the jet thing, but they get around that. They get around that. I don't know how much you know about the jet thing. I know a little bit about that. Not that I was ever an executive, but I did get to ride on the crazy thing a couple of times. But in the case of the jet, they do that they do an annual subscription for that jet so that they don't have to log where they're going. It's ridiculous. We used the jet at Anadarko to fly down. We went on, we had some success down there. We flew a whole bunch of us down for a field trip. That was a way of keeping our costs down because they pay those guys no matter what. So we used that to take our group down for a field trip to go and look at some outcrops and some different things down there. But I really think this is quite different. Those are perks, and this is lining your pocket. I really don't think this is really quite right. I mean, is there anybody? I mean, I didn't see anybody down here marking V so far. But is there anybody else that has any comments on this? Go ahead, Cheryl. You want to say something? Oh, okay. I'm more than willing to talk with people about it. Go ahead, Dave.
I would say if you were not cherry picking and you were buying an override and everything the company did, your money was going to the same place the corporation was. I would say at that point it would not necessarily be ethical egotism. It would not. I wouldn't say it's going to be utilitarianism, but I wouldn't say it's unethical for that to happen.
But he's not offering that to anyone else in the company. I have real problems with that. I mean, it may not be illegal, but I don't think it's right. You know. But thank you for your comments. I'll remember that when I'm working for you. Sorry, Dave. I'm picking on you because you're a good friend. Oh yeah, what? Oh, go back, John.
A long time ago, in the early days, I'm told that a lot of companies let everybody buy override, royalty, or whatever. They didn't get working interest from the company, but they could get a position from the landowners. And that everybody could do that, from the lowest drug geologist to the top man. The only problem with that is the drug geologist didn't have any money.
Right. Yeah, and you know, I think where the real issue comes is the word publicly traded company. There's a lot of rules with that. If it was a private company, it's a totally different situation. You know, private money, whatever, you have your own company, it's a totally different situation. But when it's a publicly traded company, you you have an ethical responsibility to the shareholders and to your stakeholders, which are the employees. And I think some days that's lost. There are companies that I know of that their employees did have the override pool for everyone, which I didn't think was a bad deal.
I got a comment.
Yes, sir.
I would say cherry picking buying work is fine for public, for CEOs of public companies, so long as he discloses it. And this is like the corporate jet, and the report we talked about for CEOs. If you're willing to public disclose the activities, and that's fine, because you're investors, shareholders, and make a decision.
Yeah.
That's why, this is done smart.
Okay. Well, hang on a minute here. We got to keep going, but I just want to say I feel this is right in the category of what was going on at Apple back a while ago, where they were post-dating options for people. I think that's very wrong too, and this I think fits into that same group. But I got to move on. We can talk about these. I got a lot of these, so this isn't the only one that you guys will be able to roast me on. Okay, Sidgwick's dualism. It was like it says here. It's easy to see these two approaches are at opposite ends of the spectrum. He was a 19th century philosopher. He spent a lot of time working on resolving this conflict, and he came up with the concept of maximum rational benevolence to allow one to make decisions that are harmful to them but good for the tribe. Okay, that's what the whole concept here is. And so that brings us to our next one here is that you're the CEO, publicly traded company. You create a small carried interest override pool on your company's drilling inventory for all of your employees except the corporate executives. People, go ahead and vote. Hopefully I didn't make these all too obvious, but okay, well, we're at the halfway point on this. So I will talk about this one for just a minute. In this case here, I do believe this is a Sidgwick's dualism because they are not enriching themselves in this decision that they've made, and they've made this decision for the rest of their employees. So it was for the greater good of the tribe, but it was harming them by not being able to participate also. So yes, I do believe that this was Sidgwick's dualism. At least that was my impression when I got to it. So we still have some votes coming in, and it looks like most everybody's agreeing with me. Any other questions on this one?
I would just like to say that the fact that everybody doesn't agree is what puts ethics into the gray area, and things are not always cut and dry, even amongst a group of people that you think are very ethical. So I think the fact that everybody doesn't agree is really pretty important.
Yeah, and people are agreeing with you, dear, because while you were talking, no went up to 24% from 15%. So you're also a very good salesperson, Dawn. Okay, let's keep on going here. This is Teleological Framework here. Consists of two paradigm framework that presupposes that an imperative can be captured by a moral point of view. Dion means duty or obligation. So you have ethical existentialism, I'm not very good at pronouncing these words, and ethical contractarianism, okay? The first one is that you're the final arbiter of right and wrong, and you have a free will to make your decision however you want, whatever. Okay? The second is that you have an overriding idea on the framework is fairness. So let's move along and see some examples of that. You're CEO of a public traded company, and you make an offer to purchase one company using only, one of your competitors using only publicly available information. Which one do you think that is? This is interesting because it's clear that I have not framed a very good question because I thought it was the A in the case of this. Come on, A. Give me some A's here. I just don't think I'm going to win in this, guys. I don't think I'm going to win. But the concept here is that the CEO made this decision on their own, just using public involved information. They didn't talk to their technical staff. They didn't talk to anyone. Why? Because they're the final arbitrator. They can make any decision they want one way or the other, okay? So that is really ethical existentialism, I believe. But clearly, there's a large group of you, 58%, who don't agree with me. Any comments on why you guys think it might be the other way? Oh, yeah, you're the CEO of a publicly traded company. You make an offer to purchase one of your competitors using only publicly available information. And if you want to see what the examples were here, see, the final arbitrator of right and wrong is the free will of the decision maker involved. So you are the decision maker, and so you can make any decision you want, and it doesn't really matter whether it's good, bad, or indifferent.
I think where you're throwing us is the, on the contract error I can't read that.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad I'm not the only one.
The overriding idea of this framework is fairness. So by the fact that you're looking at it only using like publicly traded data.
Yes. That's why we all voted the other way.
Okay, well, I didn't do a very good job of framing that question. Write that down, Dave. I'll work on it. I'll work on that. Hopefully I'll do better on the next question. I tried to, it was challenging on some of these to be able to frame questions to make this seem more realistic. But here you go. This is what I thought was here. You, publicly traded company, you purchased one of your competitors. You know you will have to lay off staff. You put together a basic severance package for former employees of both companies. This was my other side of it. So give us a vote. Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. Right, you have a contract, even if it's not written, as in terms of your stakeholders and that. So that's the reason I was thinking that. Oh gosh, here comes A. Is it going to shoot up to the top? Okay. Nope. We still have a few coming in. So I'll work on that next question, on that last question for the next time around. In fact, if you have questions that you think fit these in the future, send them to me. All right, we'll move on to the next one. This guy here, Kant's ethics. It's easy to see these again are both opposite ends of the spectrum, okay? Legislator of moral values, decisions guided by principles that anyone would agree with. He tried to resolve the conflict with this idea here. You only act according to a maximum which you can at the same time will that it should be a universal law, and act to treat humanity, whether it's your own person or in others, always as an end but never as a means. This is really great. Kant had a lot of other really weird, I'm going to underline the word weird, ideas. If you go out and Google him and look at his Wikipedia page, you'll see what I'm saying. I'm going to leave those out of this story. This one I think actually had a little merit to it. So here we go. That was he was an 18th century philosopher, Immanuel Kant. So here we go. This is my line for that. You are a CEO of a publicly traded company. You purchase one of your competitors. You know you'll have to need a staff reduction. You put together an excellent severance package guaranteeing former employees of both companies a soft landing. Yes. Oh, gosh. Really surprising to me on this, because I basically... Yeah, maybe I should change that part, but at the end of the day, this actually is a true situation here. I don't know how you can see the different things that we talked about. This is kind of where we ended up last year. So I've got about 10 minutes left here to go over some examples of different things that people submitted to me. So we ask ethical questions because we think about how we should act. Being ethical is being part of what defines us human beings. In a nutshell, it's about relationships, struggling to develop well-informed conscience, being true to the idea of who we are and what we stand for, having the courage to explore difficult questions, accepting the cost of doing what we think is right, asking the simple question, what ought I do? And I had last year this thing, whatever it was called, Ethicol or something like that. I spent some time looking at that, and that actually, they're out of the UK. You find places in the UK and Australia where you can actually call on a phone and they'll talk to you about it. We don't, seems like here in the United States they want you to pay for them to talk to you. That's an ethical issue to me right there. But there are some good websites that you can go and find out a lot of information about, and this is one of them right here. Okay, here we go. These are, I've got 5 cases to play around with until we end up here. You're the treasurer of your investment club. Your personal finances are in a mess. Soon you will have to declare bankruptcy. You withdraw $40,000 from the club treasury without telling anybody. When the club board of directors discovers the money is missing a year later, you admit that you took the money and agree to pay it back, even though you have no means to do so. The club board does not report to its club members since you are a good friend. Is the board being unethical because they know who took the money and didn't report it to the club members? Hey, I think I hit a home run on this one. You are an exploration manager. Company purposely moves staff in and out of projects in an attempt to remove any sense of ownership on exploration projects. You know that one employee is really the person that made the big discovery happen. You put your career on the line to get this person a substantial bonus and promotion. Which one is this? Institutionalism or agapeism? Show of hands. Okay, so where does everybody think we are on that? Do they think that this is the, gosh, it's hard for me to, institutionalism, where's, or the agapeism? Gee, I didn't think of it as that because it was down here not to under institutionalism, you needed to see the just distribution of goods, show gratitude to service for others, done by others, do what you can to improve their lot. Let's go to the next one where I thought this would be, you have a new employee in the office next to you struggling to fit in and get their work done in a timely fashion. You help this person get their career back on track, though it takes you away from your, well, it's supposed to be the project you're working, from your own project deadlines and makes them difficult to achieve. Sorry about miswriting that. But in this case here, it's simply you doing it to be helpful to this person. So that's really pretty much agapeism. In the other case, you were making sure that that the person was getting their just reward for the work that they had done. And that is the reason I saw them as each other way. I'm glad that things are working because I have some better examples coming right up. Duty as God's will. This is like it's been divined by God, in the whole thing, God's will, etc. And then divine commandment theory implies action norms to get legitimacy, be in accordance with God's will and no other source. Okay. Well, here you go. You are the CEO of a publicly traded company. You see it as your duty to, by any means, consolidate and remove all inefficient competitors. You pursue this philosophy with a religious zeal. A or B, yes or no? Boy. Here you go. Gosh. Really surprising to me on this. Because I basically, yeah, maybe I should change that part, but at the end of the day, this actually is a true situation here. I don't know how you can see the different things that we talked about. This is kind of where we ended up last year. So I've got about 10 minutes left here to go over some examples of different things that people submitted to me. So we ask ethical questions because we think about how we should act. Being ethical is being part of what defines us human beings. In a nutshell, it's about relationships, struggling to develop well-informed conscience, being true to the idea of who we are and what we stand for, having the courage to explore difficult questions, accepting the cost of doing what we think is right, asking the simple question, what ought I do? Until we end up here. You're the treasurer of your investment club. Your personal finances are in a mess. Soon you will have to declare bankruptcy. You withdraw $40,000 from the club treasury without telling anybody. When the club board of directors discovers the money is missing a year later, you admit that you took the money and agree to pay it back, even though you have no means to do so. The club board does not report to its club members since you are a good friend. Is the board being unethical because they know who took the money and didn't report it to the club members? Hey, I think I hit a home run on this one. Well, you would think that this is a no-brainer, but it happened.
Cronyism.
Right, you got it, but it's happened. It's not good for those kind of things to go on. Here you go, I got part B to that. Everybody, you're jumping right to the gun. Are they unethical because a crime was committed and they didn't report it to the police? And everybody says yes. So I think that's pretty valid there. Okay, case 2. You're a consultant hired to review an environmental quality control report taken at your facility for a permit. You notice that the test results are missing an element normally found in this environment. The result could be correct, but it would be atypical of the situation. You were not present when the samples were collected. Sign the report since it was done by a certified lab and don't worry about it. Everybody thinks that's the case? I don't know about that. Okay. So the second one is report to your boss that the results seem odd and you think another sample should be taken and you should supervise that and analyzed, with your supervision and be analyzed. Third one is refuse to sign and submit the document. Come on, B. That's the one I'm voting for. Take my phone and vote for B, Dawn. So. Yes.
B doesn't say whether you signed it or not.
Well, B just says that you're having them redo those samples. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're making them reanalyze it. To me, it seemed like it could be challenging in the whole thing because it will cause a lot of strife, I'm sure. But to me, if you have a lot of experience and you look at it and it says to you that there are things that are missing in this report that should be there for this kind of a sample, yes, it might be true, but it's like I've never seen it, and in 30 years of business, you need to go to your boss and say something has happened. The sample was either contaminated here at our facility or was contaminated at the lab. And if you want to save face, you just say, I think it was contaminated at the lab, and we need to go and collect a new sample and have it rerun to verify these samples results independently. If you could get a different lab to run it, would be even better. So that's where I would go with these things. And I don't think I would sign it and not worry about it because it was a certified lab, because you're putting your name on it, you're putting your stamp on it, you're saying that you think that that's correct, and although it did come from a certified lab, you don't know anything about the sample that was collected. So I would go with that B one.
Comment?
Yes.
Since you're applying their third-party outside consultants, and the signatory would be reporting to his consulting company, not to the client company.
Mm-hmm.
So chances are the client company would just remove your consulting group till they found a consulting group that would sign it.
Well, that could go on, and that could happen, and it's a shame because that's wrong. But I would still, and you know, on the bottom one down there, it was edited by my editor. I put down refuse to sign the document and quit. They removed quit, but because I felt that that's what the ultimate outcome would be. Okay, let's go to case 3. You work as a consultant at a small exploration company. The exploration team that you were part of put together a group of prospects. The company hires a consulting firm to review those prospects put together by the team. Shortly after the review, your entire exploration team is terminated and replaced by the firm's employees. The consulting firm has been unethical, the company has been unethical, or there's nothing wrong with this situation. What do people want to say? A, B, or C? Well, good. I was concerned that I was going to need to add more to this one. But yes, I agree the company's been unethical in the whole thing. I've even seen ones where the exploration team, or I haven't seen it but heard it, put together a group of prospects and they were then summarily booted out the door, and then they drilled them all, and they all had overrides on it, but in the fine print it said you had to be present to win. So yes, right, be careful what you sign. Here you go. Case 4. You're an employee hired as a researcher. You're very successful in your work, generating multiple patents for your company. One day your wife, Dawn, an equally qualified PhD in your field, files a groundbreaking patent in your area of research and starts a new company that will compete with your company. The company is now suing you for theft of company intellectual property. Do you think the company has a case? Yes. Nobody thinks B, no. It's interesting. Oh yeah, here we get some B's in here. I mean, I didn't know where this was going to go. I was interested about this. I don't know how many of you guys still get the Houston Chronicle, but this was in the newspaper on Monday. It wasn't Monday or Sunday, it was this week. You know, the thing that's been interesting to me on ethics, and I don't want to pick on the Trump administration that says this goes all over. It just seems like every day I pull out the newspaper. Now that I'm retired, I'll read the damn thing. There's something in there that's an ethics thing. This exact case is in the newspaper, and they're going to try them. I think, they said in the newspaper they thought that it was going to be very difficult, and it seems that we all agree with that. Because the wife's credentials are equal. She was totally capable of independently doing this. Now, it seems improbable, but she's totally capable of that. And I put this one on here even though this had to do with drilling fluid and frac fluid and fracking mud, which from the story. Yeah.
Can I ask a question? I mean, you're asking, does a company have a case? I think they have a case. It doesn't mean
Oh,
they
okay.
did it. It doesn't mean they did it. But if I were the company, I'd say, gee, this looks suspicious. So
Well, maybe I should have said, do you think they're going to win?
Sorry?
Maybe we should have asked if you think they're going to win.
Oh, well,
Win the case.
that's different.
Right, that's where I'm going. I'm sorry. I'll reword this one for next time. Actually, I'll probably have to come up with new examples next time. But you could also think of this in terms of prospects and stuff and that kind of thing. And that's the reason I put this in here as people prospecting, and you've got a wife who's an independent or works at another company, etc. And the next thing you know, they're in your group. Okay, we just crossed over our 1 hour, so I got one more case here for you. You work on an international project at your company. The company is actively marketing the asset. You are in charge of some operations being conducted on the property. You start to suspect that someone is generating and submitting fake invoices to your AFE. You tell your boss what you suspect, and he tells you not to report the finding because the company is in the process of closing a deal on the asset, and this would surely derail the sale. Is your boss being unethical? Well, good. I do think the boss was being unethical in this one. So we've now crossed the 1 hour period. Other ethical issues to ponder. We don't really need to keep going unless people want to leave. We've got about 5 minutes or about 8 minutes to 1. I can wrap up at the end here real quick to comments. Any comments from people? The others were kind of mundane little things at the end in case we didn't run out of time. I hope I somewhat I hope I made the goal in this thing is to make everyone think about ethics and where what is right, what is wrong, and give you some models if you have to make consistent decisions that you can be consistent with, and that so that when the situation comes up, you're not just going, oh, what do I do now? At least you've given a little bit of thought to it. Ethics is an important thing, just like I was saying earlier on in the presentation. Really the only thing you got is your reputation. It takes years and years and years to develop that, and it takes minutes to destroy it. If I can leave you with one take-home message, that's it. And that it really oftentimes isn't that hard to know what is right and wrong. I see a lot of people do things and they say it's the company and they're hiding behind that. But the reality is that it's the people at the company that are making that decision and whatever. So hopefully this has been entertaining, a little bit of fun with the interactive nature, and that I changed it up a little bit from last year, and hopefully you all enjoyed it. We have certificates for you for putting up with it.